some major drama to unpack, and it involves none other than Schoolboy Q, J. Prince, and Drake. It seems like things in the hip-hop world are heating up once again, with accusations flying and tensions running high. So grab your popcorn because this is one wild ride you won't want to miss. So let's dive right into it. Recently, there's been a lot of talk about this concept of checking in. For those of you who might not be familiar, it's a practice where rappers, when visiting new cities, are expected to check in with local figures for protection or permission to move freely. Sounds pretty old school, right? Well, Schoolboy Q seems to think so too, and he's not holding back. In the world of hip-hop, where street cred can be everything, the idea of checking in has long been a way for local gangs or influential figures to maintain control and keep tabs on outsiders, but Schoolboy Q isn't buying into it. He's called the whole thing out as being ridiculous, especially for seasoned artists like himself, who've been in the game for years, but it's not just about the concept of checking in. Schoolboy Q has some specific beef with J. Prince, a name that's long been associated with power and influence in Houston. Now, if you're wondering why this all matters, here's the scoop. Drake, who's long been under the protective wing of J. Prince, apparently tried to flex that power. Rumor has it, Drake attempted to ban artists linked to Kendrick Lamar from performing in Houston.
But he didn't get on the...
Drake thought that his connection with J. Prince would keep everyone in line, but that's where he was wrong. Let's backtrack a bit to understand why this is such a big deal. J. Prince has been a key figure in the Houston rap scene for decades, and his name carries a lot of weight. He's often been seen as a protector of sorts for artists like Drake, especially in situations where street politics come into play. But Schoolboy Q isn't impressed and made it clear that he's not afraid of Drake's so-called mob ties. Earlier this month, Schoolboy Q made a bold statement by performing in Houston in front of a packed crowd, showing everyone that he's not intimidated by any of the behind-the-scenes drama. And while he was at it, he didn't just let his performance do the talking. He directly addressed the absurdity of the whole checking in culture. Schoolboy Q didn't mince words. He called the practice goofy and downright embarrassing, especially for someone as established as J. Prince, who's still playing these games that many believe should have been left in the past. It's not just a critique of the culture, but a direct shot at J. Prince and his continued influence in hip-hop. But it doesn't end there. Schoolboy Q's challenge to this checking-in culture is shaking up the entire scene. For years, extortion and these kinds of tactics have been woven into the fabric of hip-hop. But as Q and others start to push back, it raises the question, is this the beginning of the end for these outdated practices? To understand the full context, we need to look at the history of extortion in the music industry. The roots of this practice stretch back centuries, originating with the mafia in 18th century Italy. Fast forward to the 20th century, and these tactics made their way into America's inner cities, with street gangs and organized crime groups adopting similar methods. As hip-hop began to rise, these groups saw an opportunity, setting their sights on the artists who were making big money. Extortion quickly became a part of the hip-hop culture, with even the biggest names in the industry not immune to it. Let's not forget that back in the day, artists like Tupac and Eazy-E were targets of extortion schemes. In 2011, shocking documents were unsealed by the FBI, revealing that the Jewish Defense League, classified as a right-wing group, had been extorting money from several big-name rap artists, including Tupac. The FBI documents exposed how this group would make death threats to these artists, then offer protection in exchange for a fee. This was no small-time operation. The threats were real, and the money was big. It's a reminder of just how dangerous and pervasive these practices have been in the music industry. Fast forward to today, and you'll find that extortion still plays a role in hip-hop, albeit in different forms. Take Kanye West, for example. During a visit to Philadelphia, Kanye found himself in a sticky situation and had to call on Beanie Siegel, the Broad Street bully, for backup. Some sketchy dudes rolled up on Kanye at a diner, not even ordering food, just waiting and watching. It was a tense moment, but Beanie came through and diffused the situation. And then there's the story of Rick Ross in Detroit. Back in 2014, Ross was supposed to headline a Summer Jam event, but local enforcers of the infamous no-fly zone made it clear he wasn't welcome. Ross's entourage was stopped by 100 locals, and word on the street is that Ross got seriously spooked. Although Ross later claimed it was all exaggerated, the message was clear: Detroit wasn't playing around. Even DaBaby had his run-in with this culture. During a video shoot in East Atlanta, DaBaby was confronted by a local gang for allegedly trespassing on their turf. But instead of backing down, DaBaby stood his ground, refusing to sign any so-called permission slips. He later opened up about the incident, admitting it could have gone very wrong, but luckily it ended without violence. Now let's circle back to J. Prince, a figure who's been associated with extortion for decades. J. Prince is known as Drake's longtime protector, and his name has come up in numerous shady dealings over the years. For example, when NBA YoungBoy's place in Houston got robbed in July 2020, J. Prince publicly offered to return his stolen items. Many saw this as a blatant attempt at extortion, with J. Prince essentially saying, "You want your stuff back? Come get it, but there's a price." YoungBoy wasn't having any of it and made it clear that he doesn't play those games. He went on IG Live to tell J. Prince that if he had something for him, he should have handled it directly, not through the internet. This was a bold move, considering J. Prince's reputation, but it showed that not everyone is willing to bow to these old-school tactics. And then there's the tragic story of Takeoff, the Migos rapper who was killed in Houston under the so-called protection of J. Prince's son, Jazz Prince. Many fans believe that Kendrick Lamar referenced this incident in his diss track, Euphoria, warning J. Prince to stay out of his beef with Drake unless he wants his son exposed.
So during one of his shows in Florida, Drake had Lil Durk, Chubbs, and his OVO crew make a grand entrance to Future's song, My Savages, before he addressed the diss tracks directly, claiming none of those disses affected him or the way he feels about himself.
A lot of people ask me how I'm feeling. I'm gonna let you know how I'm feeling. And listen, the way I'm feeling is the same way I want you to walk out of here feeling about yourself. Cause you know how I'm feeling? I got my head up high, my back straight, I'm 10 toes down in Florida or anywhere else I go, and I know that no matter what, it's not a on this earth that can ever put me in my life. And that's how I want you to walk out of here tonight. But in order to, get yourself all gassed up, riled up, and move towards the future, sometimes you gotta acknowledge the mistakes that you made in the past, right? Right? So this is what I want you to do. Everybody in here.
It's a chilling reminder of how deep these connections run and how dangerous they can be. This brings us back to Schoolboy Q, who's the latest rapper to take a stand against the checking in culture. He's not interested in playing these games and made it clear that he's not going to let anyone extort him or dictate where he can and can't perform. Schoolboy Q's recent performance in Houston is proof that artists can push back against these outdated practices. But what's even more interesting is the rumor that Drake allegedly tried to cancel Schoolboy Q's shows in Canada and Houston, thinking that J. Prince would have his back. If true, it shows just how desperate Drake is to control the narrative and keep his rivals in check. But it looks like J. Prince isn't interested in fighting Drake's battles anymore, leaving Drake to fend for himself. Fans are now questioning whether Drake really thought he could control who performs in Houston from Canada, and they're calling him out for being delusional. Meanwhile, J. Prince is being criticized for still playing these street games at his age, with many saying it's time for him to step back and let the new generation take over. So, what do you think about all this? Is Schoolboy Q right to stand up against the checking in culture? And what about J. Prince and Drake? Are they losing their grip on the hip-hop scene? It's clear that things are changing and artists like Schoolboy Q are leading the charge. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's keep the conversation going. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more updates on the latest hip-hop drama. There's always something going down, and you know we'll be here to break it all down for you. Stay tuned for our next video. You won't want to miss it.